Welcome to the Human Condition Podcast, Episode 3. I'm your host, American Council on Exercise Certified Personal Trainer, Kiri Jones. Today, I want to dive a little bit into the most recent blog about carbohydrates. It's understandable that there's a fair amount of confusion when it comes to carbs because one week it's good, one week it's bad. It really all depends on what you're reading and what you're listening to. But in order for me to understand better, a few years ago, I actually took the American Council on Exercise Fitness Nutrition Specialist program, and that was in order to give a base education on nutrition. So if you're one of those people that isn't sure about carbs, whether or not they're bad, whether or not they make you gain weight, what's good about them, then I'm about to cover very briefly what you want to hear. So what I want to start with is, in case you're somebody who's unaware of what carbohydrates are, or you just want to understand better, carbohydrates are, carbs are one of the three main macronutrients in the body, the other two being protein and fat. Carbs are further broken down into three categories: sugars, starches, and fibers. Sugars are simple, like fruit, table sugar. Starches are complex carbs, which are like potatoes, rice, bread, and fiber is different in that it doesn't break down the same way in the body, but it helps with regulating digestion, blood sugar levels, etc. Carbs are primarily seen as the energy source for the body, the main energy source for the body, and what it does is the body converts carbohydrates into glucose, which the body then uses to fuel your cells, tissues, muscles, organs, including the brain. Now, the first big myth about carbs that I've heard is that carbs make you gain weight. And this has been around for a long time, and it's the first thing that people try to cut when they're trying to lose weight. But it's not the carbs themselves that inherently make you gain weight. It's often more about your portion sizes and what it is that you choose to eat. But the more unprocessed carbohydrates that you consume, the more benefits come with it. There's healthier support. Now, if you're one of those people that's interested in the calorie count, 1 gram of carbohydrates is 4 calories. Same with protein, and 1 gram of fat is 9. Another misconception that I've heard is that all carbs are the same, and maybe not in those exact words, but people think a carb is a carb. But when you're having like white bread, pastries, etc., those are really fast, simple things that they spike your blood sugar, and then after that spike comes a crash. You have to find your complex carbs in order to be able to utilize the carbohydrate appropriately in the body for that long-lasting energy. So carbs convert to glucose. Glucose gives us energy. Energy is essential for everybody, but it's especially important for people who are active or trying to get active, like lifting weights, or if you're a really busy person. When you lack enough carbs, you can end up feeling fatigued and sluggish because your body is low on the fuel that it needs. Now, there's been an increasing popularity in low or no carb diets, and those can work for some people, but they cannot work for everybody. Specifically, the keto diet, there's like an adjustment period before your body goes into ketosis, where it's been reported that people feel like absolute garbage, and some people never get out of that. So again, you got to find what works for you. It's not for everybody. But another myth I've heard is that eating carbs at night will make you gain weight. And that's kind of a myth. It's not specifically the timing of eating carbs that makes you gain weight. Again, it's your choices. It's what you eat. If you're choosing to eat carbs late, make sure that it is part of a balanced meal, that you're not, only eating carbs, or that you're overloading on certain things. But if you're not even meeting your calorie goal for the day, counting carbs should be the absolute last thing that you do. If you're not where you're supposed to be, then eating those carbs is going to be more of a benefit than anything. Some people think that carbs are bad for your health, which I'm not really specifically sure where that came from, because again, they have these health benefits like being a fuel source and regulating cholesterol and regulating blood sugar, especially if you choose the more nutrient rich options. And I think what it ended up coming from was probably people were just lumping carbs together as like an umbrella term to include all of those things like the snacky cakes and stuff. Really what you need to do is educate yourself. I mean, find your whole grains, find the right fruits and vegetables, find, legumes, beans, and then balance it out with everything they're eating. I know everybody's heard of not everybody, but most people have heard of the My Healthy Plate, and that's good. It's a good thing to start with because it's a balanced approach to your diet, getting this many carbs, making sure you have this much protein, this much healthy fats. It is even more important to know about carbs if you're somebody who is planning on increasing your physical activity, because your body uses glycogen in order to fuel it for intense physical activity. So if you don't have enough of it in your body, you end up depleting that glycogen source and you end up not being able to function the way that would be beneficial for you in terms of improving your physical health. It's kind of like a hamster wheel. You're just running on the hamster wheel and you're not going anywhere. But carbs are not the enemy. You shouldn't fear the carbohydrate. Another thing that I want to do is, continuing on from carbohydrates, I want to touch back on last episode. I had covered weight loss injections and the popularity of those as like a pharmacological intervention to managing weight is being researched as the trend progresses. And an article that had caught my attention was a study published by Pennington Biomedical Research Center, and the article was published in the Lancet Journal. The title was "Muscle Matters: The Effects of Medically Induced Weight Loss on Skeletal Muscle." Basically, what the study found was that up to 39% of the weight loss while you're on these medications can actually come from muscle loss and not necessarily from fat loss. To put it in perspective, on regular dieting, it's 10 to 30%. Muscle mass already naturally declines as we age, but these medications make it occur so much faster. And if you're losing weight too quickly, and there is a too quickly, you will also likely be losing strength. You can protect yourself by preserving your muscle with things like resistance training with weights or bands or body weight, and then making sure that you're consuming enough protein and more protein if it is necessary. Your body can go through some pretty drastic changes in terms of your proportions or fat to muscle ratio while hovering right around the same weight. So, if you're in the category of being obese and you're considering taking this medication, please just find the knowledge, talk to your physician, make sure that you're coming from an informed place and that you have a sustainable plan to help you once you reach that goal where you kind of move off on your own. Another thing that I want to touch on, and it's something that it drives me nuts. It really does. And my wife has seen me freak out about this when she shows me things on social media and I kind of mentioned this in the introductory episode, that I feel that the health and fitness industry is predatory. And what it does is it preys on people's insecurities. I took marketing classes when I was getting my business degree that I'm not a fan of marketing in general, because what marketing does is it finds those things that manipulate your psychology in order to get you to buy things. And that's almost entirely the extent of what the health and fitness industry is marketing. And they're marketing to you, whether you're the person that wants, to become a bodybuilder, whether you're the person that wants a flat stomach, whether you're the person that wants to be, XYZ, pick your poison. There's somebody out there very specifically engineering things to get your attention. And the way that social media works is once you start noticing these things, and maybe like you watched a video a little bit too long, or like you follow a certain set of people with a certain aesthetic, your social media then changes itself to put more of that in front of your face. And I'm not a huge fan of social media in general. It's, I have to use it for business purposes because as much as I don't like it, I have to utilize the tools that are available to me in order to have a functioning and successful business. But what social media has done is cause has caused a good portion of the population to compare themselves and their lives to what they're seeing on the internet. And what they're seeing on the internet is sometimes, or even oftentimes, not the extent of the reality. It's people making themselves look good. It's the right lighting. It's the right camera angles. It's extremely hard restrictive dieting in order to achieve a certain physique. And with the rise in the influencer era, I'll call it, once you can start getting paid for what you're doing, then it becomes less about your success in your physical health and more about your success and how many dollars you can make. And that has robbed people, average people, of being able to find accessible information. The information is out there, but what I've discovered is that you have to be really specific in what it is that you're looking for. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you're going to have to dig really hard to find it underneath everything that is so popular. And it just catches people's attention. And what ends up happening, because it's so unrealistic, is that people are comparing their own personal health and fitness journey in terms of where they're at or how quickly they're progressing to other people. And it's not fair, because I don't know what it is about human nature, but our first instinct is to ask, like, what did we do wrong, or what are we doing wrong that we're not where this person is, or when we don't look like what we wanted to look like? And it is not that simple. The body is like a fleshy machine, and we are millions of cells put together that all work and evolved into this thing that is just in homeostasis and harmony with itself, which is why I'm very big on holistic fitness. So to take such a complicated thing and just assume that it is the same for everybody else, that's a problem. And a bigger problem too is that even when you have educated people or slightly educated people, I'm seeing things get cranked out and mass produced to the public for sale. Buy my plan, buy my diet, buy this, subscribe to whatever, pay this much a month. Just because a thing worked for them, or the select few people that they have trained in comparison to the entire population, that doesn't mean that it is the answer. And we're selling things like they're the answer. And there are too many the answers on the internet for you to find. I hate that although the fitness industry is trying to improve on these tactics and being more transparent with people, that we even ended up here in the first place. And I'm aware that people make a living doing this, but there is a time when somebody can cross over from making a living to help others to seeing how much of a living they can make and how much they can improve their own status from selling these things. And I can't stand it, because it, not only do I see it, but I'm also like, I've seen it impact people that I know and that I care about, including me. Like I've said in the introductory video, I fell victim to this industry as it stands when I was a young adult. It doesn't work like that. And I really feel like it's important to make sure that people know that there's a difference between what you see on the internet and real life. Because real life happens. I will tell you 1,000% that I am not the fittest, the most clean eating, remembers to drink my water person, because I have a family and I have a part-time career and I have a business to run. So far be it from me to be critical of somebody else who also can't, fit it in every day. Just remember that it's fine if you don't. Your fitness journey is for your goals. And make sure that your goals are actually your goals. Make sure that they are not your goals because you saw somebody else achieve whatever it was on the internet, or that you feel inclined to look a certain way because as a society we have determined that this is what a successful person looks like. Your goals should be, how well you move, how well you function in a day. Can you breathe normally walking up a flight of stairs? Can you play with your kids or your grandkids or your nieces and nephews, friends' kids, whatever? Are you trying to increase the longevity of your life? You're just trying to be more comfortable. I intend on serving the community of people that value that more than physique. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with valuing physique, because there are some people who just genuinely enjoy the challenge of, low body fat, tone muscle. They do the competitions. And so I'm not knocking them. If that's your bag, that's your bag. But if it's not, don't make it. I feel like I'm just rambling, because these are things that, my wife, she'll show me these things, before I've even had my first sip of coffee in the morning, and I will have an entirely different reaction to it than I have currently. It's usually louder, more animated, because I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about helping people. I'm passionate about making sure that people have access to make informed decisions, that people, can even afford it. Because in the future, whenever I'm still learning all the ins and outs of running an online business, to include being able to monetize the podcast or monetize my blog or whatever, I intend on monetizing whatever I can, because what I don't intend on doing is vastly increasing my prices based on popularity, because that's not fair. Just because I become more popular does not mean that my knowledge is better or worse than it was before. So, yeah, that was a long rant. I am not sorry, because I feel like it's not spoken about enough. The right voices are not bringing it to the attention of normal people. And I'm hoping that if you're listening to this, either you're a fitness professional that agrees with me and will either already does or will start to bring it to the forefront of the conversation, or you're somebody who is looking to start or improve your fitness journey, and now you can kind of take a deep breath and go, okay, I'm not actually doing that bad. So, man, I've said like and so a lot, which is sad too, because I've spoken to some pretty high level people in my life, and it's been crammed into my head not to say these things, but it is so hard when you're talking to a camera and not to somebody. And I'm hoping in the future of this podcast, I'll be able to have interviews with people. You know, I want to bring on anybody in the space that, or even in a roundabout way in the space, you know, like maybe it's a small business who creates clothing for exercise, or, you know, somebody who does skincare for people, anything. I'm willing to have a discussion with anybody, especially if it's something that I don't know about, but that somebody would benefit from hearing. So, again, I've rambled on. I'm hoping that you're enjoying listening to this podcast. Not every one of my episodes is going to include a rambling on my thoughts and opinions on the fitness industry. I'm sure a few will, and I'm sure a few will contain a little dig here and there, as long as I still see the disparities that occur. Try not to say those filler words. If you stumbled upon this podcast randomly, I have a website, I have an Instagram, I have a Facebook, I have a YouTube, and I have this podcast. If it's your first time listening to it, they're supposed to be bi-weekly. And I hope that you like, subscribe, follow, email, wave, poke. I don't even know if you can still poke people on Facebook. Anything. Comment on stuff if you have topics that you want me to cover, or if you just have a question. And I can't think of anything else that's not going to send me off on a tangent. This is already getting to be one of the longer episodes. So that's all I have. Until the next podcast.